Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of Geekside Spotlight. With us tonight is someone incredibly special. We have the Director of Marketing of Hardlight VR, John Schork. How you doing, John?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Not too bad, not too bad. And, of course, joining
Excellent.
me, I'm Wendell, and, of course, you see Zosian over there.
Hello, everyone.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on, John. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's something really neat we don't get to see very often. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is that you and your team have built?
So the product that we put out earlier this year is the Hardlight suit, it's an upper body haptic feedback jacket for VR. So it's got 16 vibration motors across the upper body, and then we have a software kit so developers can integrate their games, and it'll let you actually feel things that you're interacting with in VR. Anything from getting hit by something to like small nuanced things like environmental effects and weather or a heartbeat, all kinds of fun stuff like that. So we're really focusing on trying to add that layer of touch and haptic sensation to VR because it adds to the presence and immersion, which as anybody who's tried VR knows is what the golden egg that everybody's chasing is really trying to get that as perfect as possible.
All right. Now, how did Hardlight start? Where did you guys come up with the idea, and how did you get to this point?
It's actually a pretty interesting story. It started in Rochester, New York, in actually about 3 years ago. One of our founders, Morgan, he was playing a Kinect game with his brother, and it was some sort of motion-controlled interactive game, and they were both getting frustrated because they're supposed to be interacting with something with their hands on the screen, but they couldn't feel it, and so they just felt this inherent disconnect. And so he started tinkering around just for fun, and it turned into a project at the University of Rochester's Robotics Club. And here he met two of our other founders, Lucian Copeland and Jordan Brooks, and they decided to focus on making it for VR applications because that seemed to be where it would have the most impact and kind of serve the best, and it bloomed into a business. They graduated. They came out to Seattle, which is where I'm from, and then I joined the company in November of last year. But it all started with some scrappy kids and a dream and a lot of soldering irons and some very, very ugly prototypes.
Which I think we may have some pictures of, but we'll.
I don't have pictures of the prototype.
Oh,
yeah, you can see them. They're in our Kickstarter video, including a lot of them look fairly like you can see the lineage, but then like there's the very first one, which is kept in a box because all of the adhesives are just this gooey, disgusting mess. It's kept on the premises purely out of posterity, but it's only been dragged out once or twice in the last year or two. But if you watch our Kickstarter video at the end, there's a montage that builds up from that horrifying prototype to essentially the one that the Kickstarter backers are going to receive.
Well, make sure you guys keep that in a box. So if anything I've learned about technology companies, in fact, you always want to keep around the first iteration to put in a glass case when you've taken over part of California.
Well, we need to keep it on hand in case it becomes self-aware, and we need to, somebody needs to find out how to kill it.
There is that too. I've seen that happen one too many times in movies.
You got to cover your bases.
Well, with the interaction between Alexa, the HomePod, online shopping, and now we're getting into virtual reality. It's gonna be interesting. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, we're eventually going to have that dark hat situation that we're getting sucked into the VR universe or something.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and the thing is, I think there's a pretty surprisingly large slice of the population that that's what they're waiting for.
It is, and you can kind of see it in popular fiction too. Because I'll be honest, I'm a huge fan of Ready Player One.
Yeah, that's been full disclosure, I haven't read it, but I think everybody else in the company has. And so there's a heavy fan base contingent within Hardlight VR for that book.
All right. As long as we don't have a dystopian future that comes along with it. This is technology good, dystopian future bad.
Yeah. Well, we're keeping our side of the street clean.
Okay. No IOI.
I can't speak for everybody else, but we're we're not planning any automated takeovers or anything like that as of yet.
Okay. Now, on a side note, not completely unrelated. If you get an opportunity to get the audiobook, I don't know what your morning drive is like or your whatever, get the audiobook. Will Wheaton reads it. It is good. So. Oh,
right on.
But that's enough for that. We'll get back to Hardlight. Now, how long has this been in development?
Probably about 2 years. We had the prototype that we've got about 25 prototypes that are out in the wild now with different developers and VR arcades. We had sort of a closed alpha program. That was finalized around the time I joined the company, and then we've been making tweaks to that for the one that the Kickstarter backers will receive. So the basic version of the suit that's pretty close to what people are going to get has probably been around for about a year at this point, at least internally.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there were some other prototypes prior to that for probably the year before that were a little bulkier and less functional, but still not the horror in the box, as it were.
Okay, I say that the current suit weighs 3.5 pounds.
That's the shipping weight. The suit it's a little less than 3 pounds.
Okay, I just going by the website. It says the suit weighs about 3.5 pounds. So what was the original? How much did the original weigh? Just wondering.
Not that much more. Yeah, they were never super heavy. It was mostly just it was kind of a question of polish. It was they just didn't. Some of the prototypes are they're just much more rough looking versions, and we also have some that are tests of different colorways. Like we have one that's all sort of a pale blue that we call. They all have code names, so we call that one Dr. Manhattan. And we've got a few others like that. But for the most part, it's the basic design elements have been sort of the same idea, because we wanted to have the haptic zones spread out in sort of the same places, so it would give the most immersion and also give developers the most options for programming and effects. All right. So it's mostly been 2 on the arms, 1 on the shoulders, I think 6 in the front, and 2 in the back, I think. I don't think I'm fully caffeinated enough for my math to check out, but there's 16 in all, and they're all spread out. And we've mostly been changing things like the adjustability features on the arms and the torso, because we want it to be able to fit as many people as possible comfortably, because obviously people come in all different shapes and sizes, and we've had it fit anybody from a small child all the way up through somebody that could have been an NBA power forward and a sumo wrestler at the same time. So it's been a lot of kind of trial and error, figuring out what'll make it the most comfortable. We want it to be breathable and something people can wear for extended periods of time. And so, those have been most of the main upgrades. And then we also have a lot of work going on the software side of it. So the software development kit that comes with it, so game developers, the thing that allows them to go in and add the haptic effects. There's been a lot of work going on with that, just perfecting that. We have a really great software team, just making that thing very pretty and user-friendly and fun to use.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned haptic feedbacks. What exactly is haptic feedback?
So haptics is the
sense. Don't know what to mean.
Yeah. Haptics is the sense of touch. So essentially, there's each of the 16 things on there has a vibration motor inside of it, and then the software controls the motors. So they can be activated individually or in concert with one another. So what it allows developers to do is program in, if you get hit in the shoulder or something, a pad in your shoulder will go off. It won't be, a lot of the things that are out there now are similar in sort of the concept, but they're like just wearing a rumble pack, and they're audio powered. So if something really loud happens, the whole thing vibrates. This actually lets your game developers go in and do really specific granular things that are unique to their game. So we can simulate, sort of the feeling of wind blowing or your heart beating. We had a demo prior to the one that we've been using for the last year or so at conventions and things like that, where there was a spider crawling up your arm that we had to stop using because it freaked people out too bad.
Oh, come on.
So you're saying it's that detail oriented where you can actually feel the individual like legs of a spider coming up?
Yeah, I mean, you would feel like it going up your arm. Maybe not the 8 individual legs, but you'd feel it actually travel up your arm as opposed to feeling something just vibrating all over the place. One of the coolest effects that we've seen is there's this game called Sirento VR. It's this crazy futuristic first-person ninja robot fighting game. It's completely insane. And they've been one of our most kind of dedicated content partners so far. And they have like a bullet time mechanic in it called focus mode, where you hold down a button and everything slows down. So you see all these ninjas shooting guns and swinging swords and stuff. But what they programmed into it is a heartbeat. So everything slows down and you just feel this dun 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 until it speeds back up again. So it's they can add effects like that. It can be anything from like a really hard rumble or a jarring thing down to, the slightest little breeze. And of course it's paired with visuals and audio as well. So it's adding on to and augmenting the experience that's already there that the developers, have poured blood, sweat, and tears into.
Now, and this kind of brings up an interesting question in my mind. You guys, what have you discovered between the correlation between seeing something and physically feeling it? Has something really, any interesting things come out of that study?
Sure, yeah. Everybody's different, but for the most part, we wanted it to be that specific because we wanted it to be something really special and to be differentiated from some of the other products that have come out. And so we pay close attention to people's reactions, and in talking to them afterwards, they really do notice when, like we have this demo, our in-house demo is this game called Desert of Danger, where you kind of pop up in the middle of the desert and you've got 6 guns and dynamite and stuff, and there's all these scorpions that start surrounding you and shooting venom at you. And a lot of times when people start playing that, we'll say, like, just stand there and get shot for a minute. Because you can feel it from all around, and you don't really realize that that's missing looking back at other games until it's like you get hit in the back, and you would have no way of knowing that there was something behind you otherwise. Unless they put on some sort of arrow or the whole screen flashes red. But how much better would it be if you didn't have that sort of interruption and distraction, and it just makes it so much more natural, and it increases that level of sort of one-to-one immersion where you already have good head tracking and it feels natural to look around, but it's adding another layer on top of that so that you lose yourself just a little bit more inside VR, which is I think for a lot of people, I know that's what I want out of it. So yeah, people love it. The coolest thing has been talking to game developers because a lot of VR is still, this iteration of it is still pretty young. And so a lot of the developers are independent. Some of them are just, dudes making a game by themselves in their spare time in their apartment. And so getting to talk to these people that are usually working long hours in small teams, not that that's different for gigantic game publishers or studios, but they get to go in and bring something new out of this thing that they've already, they know backwards and forwards, inside and out, and it lets them go in and add a whole new layer to the experience. And so it's been really cool talking to fans and developers and seeing how much this can really add to a VR experience. And how much it can add to experiences of all kinds in VR, not just shooters or anything like that, but the sort of the breadth of the experience and making it more natural. And it's a lot of fun. It's definitely, it still kind of feels like the Wild West in a lot of ways, but it's exciting.
I'm just sitting here thinking of all the possibilities, like with movies or with integrating with a PlayStation 4 or all these other technologies. So,
oh, definitely. And VR is in that space now where it's getting good enough that the applications are theoretically limitless. Right now it's kind of focused on gaming because that's where you have the most people that are hardcore early adopters to technology like this. But there's so many applications for not only the Hardlight suit, but VR in general for things like training and instruction, therapy, all kinds of things like that that are super exciting beyond how exciting games are, which, I don't have to tell you guys. Playing a great VR game, getting totally lost in it for half an hour, playing super hot or something like that, it's the best.
Yeah. Which brings me to other questions, but we'll get to that in a little bit because I had a couple more related to what we were talking about right now. Going back to the visual versus feelings and stuff like that, a lot of people, myself included, suffer from motion sickness. Like, I've gotten into VR rigs, and like just recently, son's birthday party, we had a game chart come out, and they had the PlayStation 4 set up with the VR, and I got into a Forza or one of the racing games, and it was beautiful. You got to see. You could turn your head, you could see behind you, see the engine work, and you could see absolutely amazing details. But I got motion sick because there wasn't the action, the physical reaction to go along with what you're seeing.
Sure, yeah.
Have you seen any? Does the Hardlight VR help you overcome some motion sickness? Have you seen that?
Anecdotally, yeah. We don't have any hard scientific research done on it, but for example, our CEO gets horrible motion sickness in VR. Depending on the experience, but he's the biggest Sirento fan in the office. He can play it for hours at a time wearing a suit. So what we found and what the people who make the games are starting to figure out too is that a lot can be done to ameliorate motion sickness by the way that the game is made. A lot of it comes from the locomotion, so how you move around. And there's things like, adding movement lines when you're teleporting or something like that. There's lots of things like that can be done to help for people who get motion sickness. And so the people who make the games are starting to get a lot better at building them with that in mind. So I think the suit helps, but it's going to come down a lot to how the game's constructed and making sure that they have a good system for locomotion, which is one of the hardest things in VR right now is how you get around. Mm-hmm. Because, a lot of times you don't have the thumbsticks, or if you do, like with Oculus touch controllers, I almost never get motion sickness, but sometimes if I'm playing a game with like the touch controllers, when you move around with the thumbsticks, or if you look around with the thumbsticks, that can kind of get me a little wobbly for a second. So it's one of those things that they're still figuring out because they just haven't had to. It's not a problem anybody's really had with video games before, because usually you're just sitting there staring at a screen.
It's the Wild West. It truly is like you're learning it as you go along.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's I think some of the higher level VR issues are the same ones that were around in the 90s, where it's coming down to just how to make it the displays, how to get the display resolutions so it looks realistic and you get the field of view, and then how to keep it from not being tens of thousands of dollars. But a lot of the older problems they didn't really have to deal with before because the experiences weren't as in-depth when you weren't running around a world with the sort of free will that you have with an Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive, where you can look wherever you want to, and it's got that one-to-one movement. So people are starting to figure out some really interesting ways to kind of soften those hard edges for people who get motion sickness, because there's a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, like yourself, want to play VR games, so they're working on it. But what we found is the suit helps anecdotally, but for the most part, it's going to come down to how the experience is constructed.
The software, running whatever you're running.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Okay. We've seen there's a game called Wind Worlds, I think, on the Rift that actually has a ton of options when you start out. That it says if you get motion sickness, you should turn these things off and these things on. So I think we'll see more things like that give you a little more control over, because some people get motion sickness from different things in VR. So mm-hmm. I think we'll see the developers and publishers, I think we'll be building more of those features into their games to just accommodate more people. I hope. I think that would be the smart thing to do.
I always hope.
Well, Okay, I know this is since we're talking about experiences and everything. Now, being out of the suit, how's it like to watch someone in the suit? Because you probably experience a lot more than me.
Oh, it's amazing. It's hilarious and fascinating. It's people have there's such a different range of reactions. We get people that are doing, Neo from the Matrix poses without realizing it. We had somebody was literally jumping around like a frog, almost, trying to avoid the scorpions in Desert of Danger. We had a guy, I've only seen this once, but we had a guy, in Desert of Danger, there's this giant scorpion at the end called Walter that's basically just a jump scare that ends the demo. So he pops out of the ground and then just runs at you faster than you can really react. And there's one guy at a Microsoft Store demo we did who jumped back so hard that the Vive actually flew off of his head.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's never a dull moment watching people do that. Yeah, it's very rare that anybody just sort of, has a workman-like approach to it. Because it is, by its nature, it's a more visceral experience. So it's good to see. It's definitely confirmation.
Especially if you're playing a horror game or something like that. I had to admit, I was playing a horror game once, and I kind of flew across the room and just like tripped over a kid's toy and everything.
Oh, totally, man.
Oh, my friend was just laughing his head off. I'm like, yeah.
Well, and it's kind of great because that's one thing we're finding too in working with all these VR arcades now is that the spectator aspect of it is actually kind of a big deal. When you're recording, getting groups of friends to come out for beers and snacks and play VR games, a lot of it is going to be one person playing and a bunch of people just standing around watching their friend freak out because that's
there's a lot of fun in that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Now, have you seen?
Whoa.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Have you seen any? No, we've been talking about strictly virtual reality. Have you seen any applications or any movement towards uses in augmented reality?
A little bit. Augmented reality, at least from what I've seen, is still much more in its infancy compared to at least consumer level VR right now. There's some really cool things that would definitely potentially have applications. Like I've gotten to play with the HoloLens and stuff like that. And it's a really cool experience, but it's not really geared at consumers right now. So it hasn't really been something we've been focusing on too much, but it's certainly nothing we're have our minds closed to. Yeah. It's just sort of, it's not nearly as proliferated as VR is at the moment.
Well, I'm just thinking it'd be I don't know how much processing requirements, which I guess is another question I'll get into in a little bit. I'm just kind of curious. Father.io, you're familiar with Father.io?
I am not.
It is basically a augmented reality game that you play in person on your cell phones. As far as your phone is kind of like a virtual weapon, and you come across other players that fight people that are playing at Father.io, and you like have shootouts in the streets virtually. And I was it's kind of an interesting concept is if you could pair that also with the Hardlight VR suit, you could actually feel impacts with augmented reality.
I'm supposed to be getting one of those things, but still waiting on mine.
Oh yeah, that's just the nature of the beast on those.
See, I won one a year ago and still waiting on it.
Yeah.
I think theoretically that's possible for sure. Okay. It would kind of depend on how the game is built and things like that, but it could happen.
All right. Now,
I think the one thing I would worry about is if you're, you sort of have the gift of when you're in VR, you don't see the outside world. I don't know how distracting it would be if you were wearing peripherals when you're doing augmented or mixed reality. Because you kind of, when you're in VR, you sort of forget you're wearing the suit because it's supposed to feel very natural. So I don't know, it might be kind of strange if, it would, if it worked and you got shot, and then you'd look down and be like, oh, it's because I'm wearing this thing. I don't know. It'd be interesting though.
Well, it almost looks like a tack vest. That's why I'm kind of that's why I bring it up.
One thing I was wondering, you see these gaming tournaments and all that are getting really big.
Yeah.
For example, Ultimate Gaming Championships. They're hosting like $1 million prizes sometimes, or 200,000s and everything. Could you see your technology getting there in some ways, maybe in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah, because warehouse scale VR, so like having a big space with multiple people in the same experience is becoming a thing. What we're seeing a lot in the arcade space is people that own laser tag arenas are retrofitting those, because that, it seemed at least to me to have fallen out of favor, but they're saying I have this kind of cool, malleable space. We just need to build in tracking and get the rigs, and then you can have people running around and you can change the experience around. So we're seeing, and developers too are starting to cotton to that and creating arcade-specific things. So I absolutely think that'll be an esports thing, and the suit can totally be a part of that. We're talking to a lot of places that are creating warehouse-scale games and experiences and things like that that'll have multiple players interacting in the same space in the same game. So you could create a competitive shooter or, sports or pretty much anything out of that.
I'm just thinking about that because if you could, if you, that'd be kind of neat because I'm assuming they programmed the size of the building into the software so that way people aren't just walking into walls.
Yep.
That would be funny.
Yeah.
Hopefully you don't have a blue screen of death when you're in a full run. But anyway.
Yeah, that would be a bad hand to be dealt.
Yeah, but I've never thought about that. That's an interesting use. So you're seeing a lot of the arcade spaces coming to you and working that out.
Yeah, because there are a lot that are they'll have a bunch of Vive bays, and so you can rent out a bay and then for an hour, half an hour, or 3 hours, whatever, play whatever games you want. But we're talking to a lot of these arcade owners that are they're thinking a lot bigger than that, and so they want to create experiences that people can play with their friends, playing in the same game, whether or not it's a shooting game, or we're also seeing things like Hasbro is putting out a Transformers-themed VR experience in China. Fox is talking about they're doing a warehouse-scale VR Aliens experience, which will be a multiplayer thing. So I think that's definitely going to be a thing. And it's kind of cool too because since it's mostly software, you have these, as long as you have the space and you have the tech set up, you can change out the experience. So it's a big value add for the people that own the space because it won't necessarily get stale even if you have people coming by and playing all the time. From what we can see, I think that's absolutely down the pipeline.
Okay. All right. Next question. What is the processing requirements for this? Is it something you could run off a moderate computer, or will you need a full-fledged? Well, obviously you need a hell of a setup for VR anyway, but
yeah, it's pretty much any VR capable PC will be able to run the Hardlight suit. Software-wise, it's very light. There's a very small software service that runs, sort of down in the taskbar that lets you enable the suit and test it and things like that. But the actual integration is done at the engine level. So that's by the time you get to the game, that part's already done. You don't have to download patches or anything like that. It just comes in through Steam, and it's essentially in the hands of the developers. So that part is pretty automatic and it's built into the game already. So as long as if you have a computer that's capable of running VR, it can run Hardlight. You might maybe you're running out of USB ports or something like that, but in that case you should just get the wireless module.
There you go. Now this is
wireless module or something bigger, more ports.
Yeah.
Now this is this is all battery powered, right? No. If you want to get the wireless module, it's all connected. You don't have to be connected to a wall or the computer.
So the stock suit it comes with a power supply that's plugged into an outlet, but the wireless module gives you wireless power and data. So that's battery powered, and then it also gives you Bluetooth for data.
All right. Now like you said before, it's kind of like a little bit of a Wild West market here, and you're having developed a lot of the SDK, the APIs to integrate your the hardware with the software. Now, is this something you're going to look to be licensing out? Because there are a lot of people that have already come out before you that with just the basic rumble suits, like you were saying, there's going to be people following you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's something we haven't talked much about it, but it's something we've definitely been working on is helping provide haptic solutions for other peripherals and things like that. I can't say a lot about it, but it's definitely one thing that I really like about the VR space is it's small and dedicated enough right now that it's still very much a community. So we want to be a conduit for developers and arcade owners and users to be able to, create a rising tide that lifts all boats. So whether or not that's connecting arcades with developers to get cool new games or providing haptics for, other hardware partners, all kinds of stuff like that. There are a lot of doors that are wide open at the moment, and we are hoping to keep them that way and build a lot of bridges. I don't think I can talk about it in too much detail, but that's absolutely something we're looking at.
Okay. By the way, Scott, if I'm like controlling the conversation here, so please interrupt me if you have more questions too. So.
Let's just give you a moment. Well, you mentioned Steam a few minutes ago. Are you already having the games out on Steam, or?
Yeah, some of them are. Sirento is out. I believe you can also get. I think the integration is built in on Thrill of the Fight and Battledome. I think those are the only ones that are out at the moment. I think we've announced 17 games, and we've got probably a dozen or 2 dozen more that are in negotiations in the pipeline.
Okay.
So are you looking for more game developers as possible, or are you just trying to stick to a core group?
No, because essentially the way it works is, we'll shepherd them through, and we'll give them a workshop and kind of advise them on some best practices and pointers for integrating haptics. But we essentially hand them the keys and let them do whatever they want. We wanted to give them the ability to either, do sort of a stock drag and drop. You get hit, it goes off here, or get as weird and granular and creative as they want. We wanted to be able to, empowering users and arcade owners, we want to empower the developers too, and let them really control the experience, because it gives them, it's more fun for them, it's more interesting, it gives them more buy-in and lets them add something to this thing that is hopefully very near and dear to them by the time they talk to us.
It just seems like, so the technology is basically growing all the time, and you're also trying to help shepherd people maybe behind and get into y'all's level where you can use your suits and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, now you're obviously you started out, you got some stuff for home user. You're working with the arcade owners and stuff like that. Entertainment. I'm assuming movies are in there somewhere too. The possibility of theater chains, bringing in to interact more with movies. Where do you see applications yet outside of entertainment?
Yeah, definitely. We've looked a little bit into things like therapy and training and stuff like that. We wanted to start very focused at the beginning, and so we stuck with kind of gaming and entertainment, just because we wanted, similar to taking care of the upper body first, we wanted to just get it right. Because we've seen, in kind of doing research into hardware and VR crowdfunding projects, we've seen a few that had these very broad goals and promises, and it left you kind of wondering, okay, then who's this for? What am I supposed to do with this? And we wanted to be very clear at the beginning, like, this is for gamers right now, but then we're looking down the road. There's also some things like, we've talked about therapy for soldiers with PTSD, for example, but things like that, applications like that have, certifications that need to happen and very long processes. So, we wanted to, let's hit the ground running, get as many game developers and get as plugged into the VR game space as possible, and then we'll circle back around to sort of the the broader applications. But there's some super fascinating things that are possible with it, and then we've been approached by some really interesting people too. So it's definitely something we're planning on expanding to in the future.
Okay, before we continue, were y'all hearing the weird noise like I was?
That's
While he was answering.
That's my dog. He was sneezing.
I was like,
I thought that was a dog sneeze.
No,
I thought it was a sneeze too, but I just wanted to make sure I wasn't hearing things.
No.
But you may.
Well, you are, but
I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's a dog sneeze though, so it's adorable. It's all good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you may want to repeat your answer. That way we don't have. That way it's clear. And
was it too loud?
If you can. Yes, it was very loud.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can definitely do that. Essentially, we've looked at things like training and therapy and all kinds of other applications beyond entertainment, but we wanted to start very focused at first and do one thing right and really get established and get a good foothold in the gaming sector and make sure the tech was good and our business model and our relationships were good. And then we're going to kind of circle back to some of the other broader applications, because some of those as well have, you need to get FDA licensing and things like that. And there are these some longer tail processes that will require a little more attention. And we basically don't want to half-ass anything. We want to whole-ass everything, to quote Ron Swanson. So we have eyes on that. We've been approached by some really fascinating groups and people that we're looking forward to hopefully working with. But right now we're focusing on games for the immediate future until the suits are out and we get a good sink our teeth in deep enough that we're content to let go.
All right. Now, God left us. He left us. That was strange. Back.
Sorry, I cut out there for some reason.
Did you hit the close button?
No, I did not hit anything. It was my stupid internet.
I know. Now, speaking of KickStarter, you just mentioned KickStarter a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to let my dog out of the room because this is going to get annoying. So I was going to travel to the KickStarter, but let me let the dog out. I'll be right back. So time to think.
I do have a follow-up question on that.
Okay, yeah.
So you're saying that it's hard, so in the future, maybe medical and stuff like that, so maybe, just say way future, maybe where surgeons could be somewhere else and maybe could actually feel what they're doing with a robot or something like that, doing surgery or something.
Wow.
That's certainly a higher level than we'd sort of talked about so far, but it's certainly possible. I know that I think remote surgery is a thing with robots and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's totally possible. At the end of the day, it would depend on what the software interface was, but it's completely feasible. Yeah, and it would depend on whether or not the surgeons of the world thought it would be helpful. I don't know. Maybe they thought it'd be a little too much like playing Operation, where you just get buzzed.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine the FDA certifications to do something that serious. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, they already do robot surgeries with the surgeon somewhere else, but just think about having the feel in your hands and all that.
Stranger things have happened. It's definitely possible. It's I would imagine something like that will be a little ways out, but I think it could be useful, but I'm hopelessly biased, so we'll see what the American Medical Association says.
We've gone from computers not really being anything in the 60s to where we are now. So anything is possible in 50 years.
Yeah. Well, technically, the computers were developed during World War II, so...
It depends on your definitions, but yes.
It was developed to break in the code.
Yeah.
And...
Anyway. So, KickStarter. So you had a successful KickStarter
we did,
program. Yeah. How was that?
It was great. It was really nerve-wracking at first, but we hit our goal in like 2.5 or 3 days, which felt pretty good. And it was mostly a lot of fun. One of the reasons we picked KickStarter was because it would let us interact directly with the backers. And in a way that a traditional retail sort of pipeline wouldn't. And especially for people that were, in a way, taking a gamble because it's something that most of them haven't gotten to try it. And there have been a lot of VR Kickstarters that have not fulfilled their promise. So we knew that there was a trust problem there, and so we really wanted to be able to communicate really closely with anybody who, was reaching out and giving us money. And so we thought crowdfunding and specifically Kickstarter was the way to do that, and it was great. It still is. It's nice to be able to send a message to everybody that has pre-ordered and to be able to talk to them and interact with them and I personally really like being able to do like personal customer service. If somebody has a question or a concern, you can talk directly to them and hopefully set their mind at ease. So it was awesome.
Yeah, I myself have backed a couple of Kickstarters and Indiegogo. I didn't see this one in time to try to back it or anything like that.
Well, it's still available on BackerKit.
It's called money. Unless you want to send me one of the suits for free, I gladly would take it for free and review it for you.
A lot of people take stuff for free. Yeah, whatever.
We'll have to think about that one.
Yeah. But
no, just joking.
So you are still doing through BackerKit, right?
Yeah. We wanted to still be able to just get as many people that wanted to pre-order because we know, as with VR, with everything in VR. It's expensive, and so we know that there were a lot of people that reached out to us on Facebook and things like that, and we're like, I just missed it. I didn't have the money at the time, and so we wanted to be able to kind of have a Slacker backer program where a few months because we don't have to cut off orders for a little while longer yet. So we wanted to just give people the opportunity to still be able to get in on the first batch.
Well, and also,
what is the deadline for pre-orders?
It's probably going to be mid-August. We're finalizing that right now, and we're also going to be just switching over to a regular sort of e-commerce platform. So we're just those wheels are starting to turn, but it'll probably be about mid-August when we need to send the final order to the manufacturer and cut that batch off. So, but we'll be making a lot of announcements and stuff when we get that nailed down.
So after the pre-order and everything, but you will still sell the suits after you start main production.
Yep, that is the plan.
All right,
okay.
and
y'all listening, you're safe.
But also,
you can get one later.
Yeah, don't wait. If you
wait, you want to get one right now. You want to be on top of the technology.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. Unlike me, I'm sorry, I'm slow and slacker.
Okay.
Just to be honest.
Now, from discussing VR and expenses, it's actually relatively recently priced VR equipment too.
Yeah, and that was what we were aiming for. We wanted it to be the cheapest part of anybody's VR setup because we know how expensive it is to get the PC and the headsets and everything, and then there's the space sacrifice too. We wanted it to really be a peripheral that would be relatively affordable, and I think we succeeded on that. There are other options that are cheaper, but they don't do nearly as much as the Hardlight suit. So we felt good about where we ended up.
Well, just being able to tell the difference between like a hammer blow, a gunshot, and a sword, I mean that takes. Well,
and the location-based haptics were a big part of it too, because there isn't anything else that will do different areas. Pretty much everything else that's out there, that at least so far that we've seen, just does the one. It's like wearing a giant rumble pack. There are some other ones that purportedly do location-based haptics, but they're either not available yet, or if they are, they're very, very expensive. So we wanted to be able to provide that at a reasonable price or a relatively reasonable price, and we feel good about what we did.
Now, a part of the video that I saw actually had it without a VR headset. It was just using controllers. Now,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, have you thought about, because there's no VR MMOs right now. Have you looked into building it into an MMO, like World of Warcraft or
Not specifically, but it's certainly possible. The example in the video that you're talking about is the suits have an audio mode, so it will function with anything that has an audio signal, like some of the other suits and vests that are out there, where it just, if something loud or very bassy happens, it rumbles.
Okay.
So you can use it with games that aren't specifically programmed for it. The experience just won't be as interesting or robust. It's another case where we've just been focusing on VR. A lot of it's because we're such a small team.
Yeah.
We're at the moment we're 6 people. So we just wanted to focus on VR, get that done well, and then kind of see where the applications might lie elsewhere.
Okay.
So maybe in the future you may be working with PlayStation or Xbox or PC games, maybe.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible. In terms of like PSVR and the Xbox VR, we have every intention of trying to get compatible with those. We're working on trying to make those inroads right now. We're hardware agnostic. We don't want to enforce any sort of preference or anything like that in terms of anybody's rig or gear. So right now we want to be compatible with as many platforms and tools as possible.
All right,
so maybe working with those gaming companies, hey, let's build our stuff into your software. That way when people play your game on the PC or the Xbox or the PS4, they can have that experience.
Yeah, it's certainly possible, yeah.
So this really makes purchasing the Hardlight VR over other options even better, because not only is it doing what the, compatible with all sorts of games via the audio rumble like the other systems do, but of course the actual interactive, the SDK and the APIs that you've built, kind of covers all bases.
Yeah, and it's important to state too. We made it really user friendly for developers. So we've had, there was a one-man team that integrated his game in a day. So it's not a big, nasty, complicated technical process for the developers to get their game fully integrated. And so we haven't really run into any roadblocks talking to developers. They're all interested, and so there's the only limit we have right now is we're literally out of suits to send people until the Kickstarter run comes through. So we're having a lot of people share suits and things like that, but the enthusiasm is high. I know we've had some people that are concerned about compatibility, and we just want to make it clear that it's going to be compatible with as many VR games as humanly possible. We know that you could have the coolest peripheral or piece of tech in the world, but it's worthless if it doesn't work with cool games.
Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm. So when are you? What's your future plans after this is done? What's your plans next that you are able to talk about?
I don't know if there's much I'm able to talk about. I probably should keep mum on some of that stuff for now. I don't want to get myself in trouble.
Yeah. All right. So what's the roadmap now? What's the roadmap for the next few months? You're still on target for getting the Kickstarter, the pre-purchase ones out.
Yep. Actually, right now we're just focusing on making sure the Kickstarter suits get to the backers without a hitch. Because, like I said before, I think every single person in this company has been burned by a Kickstarter before, and we absolutely don't want to do that to anybody. And we know how important that is, particularly with hardware, particularly with VR hardware. There have been a lot of cases of vaporware, and we are absolutely not that. So we're just focusing on getting that as close to 100% right as we can and keeping everybody happy. Then we'll keep selling, and right now we're just contacting as many VR arcades and game developers as we can, just meeting people and talking to them about what we do, how we can help them, it's sending a lot of emails that are basically, does your game need haptics? It does.
Yes, it really does. You want us, call us. We're ready to go. Let me help you.
Yeah, so we got our foot in the door, and now we're keeping it open and keeping the airflow going, as it were.
All right. Now,
where can people right now see your stuff? You saying you're at some VR arcades already, and then people experience it, or conventions you're gonna be at?
Right now, we are talking to the PAX West people. We did PAX East, which was totally awesome. We had an amazing weekend with an absurd long line for all 3 days. So we're talking to the PAX West people, and there's a few other shows that we're talking to. We're doing this gamer cruise thing in October that is going to be insane. But there's, like, if you're in Seattle, we have a suit at Portal VR. There's a few VR arcades throughout the world, actually, that a couple of them have prototype suits. The best thing people can do right now is go to hardlightvr.com. We've got videos up there. We've got a bunch of videos on our YouTube about different facets of the suit, how it works, things like that. If you look us up on there's links to the backer kit on the website if you want to pre-order one. If you can't find a VR arcade to go to, you can email us and we'll try and see where the nearest place is for you. But yeah, like I said, we're kind of limited right now in that we're just tapped out for suits, it's a good problem to have. It's very frustrating, but luckily it's something that people want very much. So yeah.
All right, now we're coming on about almost an hour now, so we'll probably just wind this down. Do you have any last questions, Scott?
No, I think you mainly answered them.
Cool.
All right.
Well, hopefully I didn't ramble too much. I have a tendency to do that.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm guilty of that as Wendell.
Yeah, it happens. We never have a show that ends on time, but that's
yeah, it's the nature of the beast.
Exactly. So I had one of our friends wanted us to ask. So, how much time do you get to spend during the week actually in the setup?
With the suit and everything?
Yeah.
It depends on what's going on. So heavier weeks is probably like an hour or so. Mm-hmm. The suits that we have in the office for the most part they're usually each one of the software guys is using one to actually do work. So
that's what's fun.
Yeah. We are, at least I try not to commandeer one too often. But what's fun is they're working on the software and on some like cool little demos and stuff like that. So most often what happens is they'll be like, hey, will you put the suit on and try this out for 20 minutes or something. So a little bit. We make an effort to play VR games because we want to know what's out there, what's good, the new stuff, the cool stuff. So that's definitely a big perk. But the suits, like I said, we have so many that are out of the office being used that we try to be careful and spare with the ones we have. And
don't break them.
Yeah. And the ones, all the prototypes have seen a lot of use. Part of it, we wanted to make sure that they're durable and they're going to last a long time too. Yeah, and it'll depend. Every now and then we'll just get really into Sirento or something, and it's nice to be able to put that on and blow off steam for like an hour or so. But we try to do some work around here.
Have you ever snuck in the office at nighttime just to play it?
Well, I haven't snuck in. I've come in.
It's not to say he doesn't need to sneak in. I'm pretty sure he's got keys to the door.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. Just let's go play the Hardlight.
Yeah, sure.
No one else is here.
Oh, definitely. That's the best time to do it.
When you're,
for sure.
I think isn't that like a Silicon Valley thing? I mean, it's what you're doing. Let's play some fun, right?
Yeah. Well, to a degree, we got to know what's going on out there. What games people are playing, what appeals to them about it, why are they playing it? What are the new things people are figuring out in VR, because that's happening all the time. So, yeah, we like to keep current on it, and it's being a small team. Everybody wears a lot of hats and works really hard. So we definitely try to practice self-care and relax every now and then. So. Try and keep a healthy balance, and as I'm sure you guys know, a good way to relax and blow off some steam is play some video games, and why wouldn't you play VR games if you got the rig right here?
There you go. All right.
Okay, everyone. We have had a great experience with John here with Hardlight VR, and we want to thank QuestCon convention in Mobile, Alabama, for sponsoring this show. It's October 20th through the 22nd in Mobile, Alabama. It's going to be a great gaming convention. UGC is coming, Ultimate Gaming Convention, Ultimate Gaming Championship, and big tournaments are going to be there. So, and you never know who's going to show up. And there's a few people we hadn't talked about yet. So okay, but like I said, QuestCon convention and also our other sponsor, Grievance Gaming. It's a great family guild, family atmosphere of 12,000 people. So look it up, grievancegaming.org.
All right, I have one last question.
I screwed up.
Okay.
We can redo it. Anyway, one last question. Who's responsible for making the suit look almost like the Iron Man?
I don't know if that's any one person, but we definitely, that was kind of something we've said early on, is we want you to feel like you're putting on something cool, like whether or not it's, we made a video where we hooked up a backpack VR PC, and then we hooked up the suit to a battery, so it was kind of the first fully untethered wireless haptics, or not, it wasn't technically wireless, but untethered VR, so our CTO was just running around playing Sirento, and we told him, like, you look like a space marine.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, because I'm just looking at one of the photos that was not part of the press kit, and it's lit up like the. I'm pretty sure that was on purpose, but.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
And Marvel doesn't have a trademark on chest lighting.
No, not that I'm aware of. Hope not. All right.
No.
John, thank you so much for joining us. It's been wonderful having you. Everybody,
thank you.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, follow, and all that other fun stuff. Thank you, and have a good day.
VR games rely on sight and sound alone to engage the user. Never before has hardware existed to let you feel the virtual world. Until now. Immerse yourself in the sensation of touch and experience virtual reality gaming like never before. This is the Hardlight suit.
Hi, my name is Morgan Cinco. I am the CEO and founder of Nullspace VR, and these are my co-founders.
I'm Jordan Brooks, head of product.
I'm Lucian Copeland, head of R&D.
The Hardlight suit is a haptic feedback vest designed specifically for VR gaming. It uses vibration pads and sensors to transform in-game actions into real-world sensations.
Haptics are your sense of touch. Haptic pads allow us to reproduce those same sensations. The Hardlight suit features 16 individually activated haptic pads, enabling extremely precise touch feedback. Feel a sword clash against your armor. Experience a virtual rainstorm. Or even box with your friends. It's all possible with the Hardlight suit.
The Hardlight suit uses inertial sensors to mirror physical movements in-game. Raise your arm to deflect bullets, curve your back to dodge arrows, or punch a zombie in the face. The Hardlight tracking system also lets you see your entire avatar, not just a pair of floating hands and a head.
We designed the Hardlight suit to be adjustable and breathable, so people of all body types can game comfortably. Adjustable straps on the abdomen, arms, and shoulders allow users to custom fit the suit to their body.
Great games are the key to great VR. We're launching with 10 awesome Hardlight compatible games, but that's just the start. Our easy-to-use API makes it simple for developers to add Hardlight compatibility to existing games. And our hardware development kit is already in the hands of developers across VR platforms. We've also created a huge library of immersive haptic effects so that developers can quickly add realistic sensations to their games. We've also developed an audio-only mode, which enables simplified audio-based haptics in all the games you love.
Once you try really good haptic feedback, you will notice what it's like to not have it. You get dialed into, with more senses than ever, your experience, and you're able to perform at a level that you were never able to perform at before.
With the support of experienced manufacturing partners and scalable part suppliers, we're prepared to ship the Hardlight suit to Kickstarter backers around the world.
Our vision for Nullspace VR is to bridge the virtual and real worlds by making haptic feedback available to everyone. To that end, we've spent years designing and prototyping the Hardlight suit into the finished, gamer-ready product it is today. Now, all we need is the support of VR enthusiasts like you to back our Kickstarter and be the first to experience the next generation of VR gaming.